Hi, and welcome to Attention. I'm Pavio, and today we're going to begin the analysis of Albert Camus' The Stranger, often translated to The Outsider. But before that, I just wanted to quickly mention I will be getting back to a more consistent schedule, as well as the usual tag videos here and there. It has just been a bit busy recently, and this is pretty much all I can do at the moment. And I know I've said this in the last few videos, but it just hasn't seemed to have cleared up yet. But anyway, in the previous video we discussed a few of the ideas found in Albert Camus' famous 1942 essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, though that video is by no means meant to be a full introduction to everything Camus has ever done, because that would be ridiculous. It does, however, mention a few of the notions that are presented through this character Meursault, which we will now begin to apply here. I will provide a link to that video below, as it will greatly help with what we will discuss now. However, I will be going over some terms in this first video, so it's not necessarily needed if you have a basic understanding of Camus' philosophy of absurdism. And since these next few videos will be an in-depth look at the novel, needless to say there will be spoilers, as I very well may be going through this chapter by chapter, if I can make it past the first sentence. I will be using the Vintage International edition translated by Matthew Ward, which from my understanding, as I don't speak French, is the better of all the translations, or at least the most read as of now. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the themes and terms found in The Stranger, and why it has been regarded as one of the great existential fictions, despite Camus' insistence on not being an existentialist himself. Though there are multiple lenses to view this short novel under, and all may be valid, the approach I will be taking here and the terms and themes discussed in this particular video will all be gathered from the multiple letters, reviews, and notes that Camus has either written or discussed, as well as those who have written heavily on the subject, such as Oliver Gloag and Alice Kaplan. And I'll provide links below for anyone that's interested in further reading up on this. The first term we will define is, of course, the term absurdism. Now, this is a quick definition taken from the Oxford Dictionary of Philosophy, and is by no means the myth of Sisyphus all summed up. But for this purpose, and for now anyway, this'll work. Any belief that is obviously untenable. In existentialism, a term for the pointless or meaningless nature of human life and action. Camus describes it as the working of three parts: the universe, human beings, and the relationship between the two. And as we go through the novel, much more of this will be defined and explained, as it is the major theme expressed throughout the work, and of course I'll discuss it where it is relevant. Another important term is irrationality. For Camus, and shown in The Stranger, is that individual lives and the existence of human beings in general have no rational meaning or order. The world in which Meursault lives, as seen by Meursault, possesses no rational order, and all moral practices are simple rituals that have no intrinsic value in and of themselves. There are no structures a priori for any values to set themselves upon. Things for Meursault are done for seemingly no reason at all. But this idea does not prevail in the minds of those around him, who tend to demand order. Meursault views existence as a process that is taken one moment at a time, and it is not a system or a structure that demands guidelines from a legislator separate from his own existence. Passivity, as expressed in The Stranger through Meursault, is an agreeable way to act towards others, as it is the most common-sense way to express life, given that one accepts the absurd. This passivity or indifference is what divides Meursault emotionally from the rest of society, And though many have come to call this a detachment from society, and detachment is the preferred expression, interviews given by Camus, as well as letters in response to critics of the time, including one to a Catholic critic by the name of Meursault on July 17, 1942, the word detachment, though not wrong, does not hold the same connotation that many critics have given it. There may be a difference that results in a separation or a divide in moral values, but it's very well understood by Meursault on what this is. Camus quickly points out to the critics, stating that they seem to have forgotten that Meursault does in fact give details of his personal views that separate him from the rest of society. Though the word detachment is used, we will come to find it means something other than and or more than a simple or, however complex, psychological disconnect. But we will touch more on that when we get there. Another important term, arguably as important as the term absurdism, is authenticity, one of the most fundamental pillars of existentialism. And that is the degree to which a person's actions are in agreement with their beliefs and desires. Even under pressure from societal norms, it is important for an individual to hold true to what it is they believe, no matter the consequence. It requires one to take full responsibility for their own actions and choices, and can often be related to achieving a measure of autonomy and freedom. And finally, alienation or estrangement. Another major theme that characterizes existentialism, often referring to those who do not identify with a particular institution found in their own society. The condition of being estranged from one's society capitalizes on the individual experience while often identifying a psychological affliction. However, it is not exclusively a negative phenomenon. There is, of course, moments of alienation in which an individual may find value. This may lead to an independence in which identity is more well defined. However, as expressed in The Stranger, this kind of separation can also lead to an individual that only cares for themselves, rarely having any regard for the interests of the larger community. Alienation consists of two parts, the constant and the variable. The subject, or the alienated, and the object, what one is alienated from. Existential philosophy has come to be understood in part as a revolt against attitudes and beliefs entrenched in the development of complex ideologies, particularly the post-war existentialists and the ideologies that developed in the 19th and 20th centuries. The view that truth can be determined through a separation between the cognitive subject and the object, or the knower and the sensibility to be known. Two earlier philosophers that put this notion forward were Kierkegaard and Nietzsche. These two would also be hugely influential on Camus and his own writing. For those who have studied this in the past, a lot of what can be found in The Stranger and many other works of Camus may start to sound very familiar. And though Camus does separate himself in many ways from the leading existential thinkers of his time, the common theme of alienation, the divide between subject and object, the individual being estranged from themselves, resulting in a descent into an inauthentic, anonymous circle, be it social norms, is a common theme throughout, and one that presents itself in full realization in The Stranger. Now, as stated earlier, there are many ways of taking this novel and applying it to a lens. May that be strictly psychological or commentary on social failings, all completely valid. But as we go through the work, the themes presented here will be the main focus. And I do hope to get these, the rest of these videos out quicker than I have been, so that all of this can fit together nicely and not be so detached. So I do hope you'll continue with me in exploring this novel, and hopefully by the end of it you will have a fuller understanding of why it has become one of the more important existential works of fiction, emphasis on the word fiction. So I hope to see you next time, and yeah, until then.